So a lot of people from the community are bashing the Ashes of Ariandel DLC for many reasons such as longevity and not adding enough content to the game. So does this mean that it is the worst DLC ever created by From Software? To answer this question, we have to go back to the previous DLCs and answer this question objectively. So the first DLC ever created for the Souls series was the Artorias of the Abyss DLC. This was a first for the Souls series where they added additional content to the main game, and this DLC was very beneficial for both PvE and PvP players, where this was the first time an arena was added with multiple game modes to play with other people, which was something totally cool and awesome in terms of the game at that time. This DLC added more than 10 new and unique weapons, and the most notable ones are Artorias' Greatsword and the Gold Tracer, which is still until now has one of the most unique movesets in the Souls series. It also had 6 different armor sets. It also introduced dark magic such as the Dark Bead, and oh my god, it brings so many bad memories. And we can't forget about the overall design of the DLC, the design of the Royal Woods, even though it is a reskinned Darkroot Garden, and yeah, don't argue about it in the comments, has a very nature-like design which I really love. And the boss design is just magnificent, as no one can ever forget Artorias or Manus or Calamite. It also expanded upon the concept of the Abyss in the story of Dark Souls and the Furtive Pygmy, which was very vague before the DLC was released. All that for the price of $10, or you get it for free with the PC version, and it is approximately 7 hours long. Then comes Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 2 had 3 DLC packs, each priced $10 for each, or $25 for the DLC bundle, or if you bought Scholar of the First Sin, then you already have that included with this edition. Each DLC was very different than the previous one, and each had its unique design, and each DLC contained 2 main bosses and 1 optional. The first was the Crown of the Sunken King, and it was designed as a complex maze-like level, and it was filled with poison and traps everywhere. It added 7 new weapons, and the most notable ones are the Puzzling Stone Sword, which is a web sword hybrid, and the 2 crossbows, which has special dark attacks. It also had 3 armor sets and 3 unique equipment pieces, and the best looking one in my opinion is the Drakeblood set, which also made it into Dark Souls 3. It had 3 bosses, and one of them is one of the most epic bosses ever, which is Sin the Slumbering Dragon. Oh my god, how much do I love the music and the way the boss fight is made. Now this DLC is approximately 5 hours long. The next DLC is the Crown of the Old Iron King, and this DLC has huge verticality on it, unlike the previous DLC. This DLC added a lot more than the previous one. It had 12 different unique weapons, and each of them has its special qualities. I don't think anyone would ever forget the Chicken Wings weapon, the Smelter Hammer, and the Bewitched Alon Sword and the Majestic Greatsword. It also has 3 new armor sets, which all of them look super epic, and there is also 4 unique headpieces. And the bosses, where do I start with the bosses? Saralon, which is one of the most dramatic bosses ever with the best looking arena, or the Fume Knight, which is a very hard boss yet amazing at the same time, or the Smelter Demon. Oh wait, it's just a reskin of the original one, but at least it gives you a different amazing weapon which has blue fire instead of red, which looks 10 times better than the original one. This DLC is also approximately 5 hours long. Then the last DLC came, which is the Ivory King DLC, and it was the first snowy area since the Painted World in Dark Souls 1. This DLC had over 18 new weapons and shields, and the most notable ones are the Ice Rapier, the Ivory Straight Sword, the Ivory King Ultra Great Sword, the Bone Fist, the Lois Great Sword, and all of the other weapons honestly. It also had 5 new armor sets and 4 unique headpieces. The design of this DLC, I didn't like it very much to be honest, as it felt very flat, and there were 3 bosses, which one of them was basically 2 of the first boss just fighting together, and the last one was a very different boss fight where you had to fight enemies first and then the boss fight begins, and it just took too much time and effort to actually engage the boss fight. But the shock you get the first time you enter the Old Chaos was a very good one, as it caught me by surprise. It is slightly longer than the previous DLCs, as it is approximately 6 hours long. And once you clear all the DLCs, you get a special thing in which if you wear the crowns you got from the DLC, you can no longer become hollow. So the DLC season for Dark Souls 2 was a very good one, as with all the DLCs you have approximately 15 hours of additional content, and over 50 new weapons to try with the price of $25 if you own the original game. Then came Bloodborne's DLC, The Old Hunters. When Bloodborne first came out, we weren't sure if there's gonna be DLC for it, and when it was revealed, everyone was super hyped for it. This DLC costs $20. It added 16 new weapons to the arsenal of weapons in Bloodborne, which was very low and poor when the game first came out, but the added weapons were simply amazing: the Moonlit Greatsword, the Beast Cutter, the Rokoyo, and many of the other weapons. It also allowed us to transform fully into a beast or into a Great One Kin, which added new movesets, and it is just a very amazing concept. This DLC, which is more of an expansion pack really, had 5 bosses, with each one it's very special and very unique in terms of story and gameplay. And if your jaw didn't drop when Ludwig put out the Moonlit Greatsword for the first time in the boss fight, then you aren't human, just go live under a rock. Also Lady Maria, which is one of my all-time favorite bosses in the Souls series, and her story with German, which is also one of my favorite characters, is just so well done. The DLC added 9 new armor sets, and all of them are super unique and look very fashionable, and really added more fashion souls to the game. This DLC is approximately 9 hours long, which is very good for a DLC, but the ending of it was kind of underwhelming, as through the entire DLC they kept teasing and talking about the great secret that no one must know, and at the end it wasn't very clear what the secret was, sadly. And then comes the Wicked, the Ashes of Ariandel DLC for Dark Souls 3. It costs $15 and it added 16 new weapons and shield, which all of them are super unique, including the amazing Friede's great size and the follower weapons and etc. And it added 5 new unique armor sets and 4 new spells. It also returned the arena from Dark Souls 1, which is a very huge addition to the PvP section of Dark Souls 3, but it only had 2 bosses, which one of them is a very poor boss fight in my opinion, but the second one is an amazing boss fight, and it is long and keeps you on your toes as you are fighting the boss. It is approximately 4 hours long. So, to ask our question again, is the Ashes of Ariandel DLC the worst DLC created by From Software? If we look at it objectively, it actually added more than most of the previous DLCs, and the environment in Ashes of Ariandel is also generally better, and with the graphics of Dark Souls 3 and all of that. So I have to say that the Ashes of Ariandel DLC isn't the worst DLC, and it is in the middle ground area, you can say. The thing is that it is more expensive than it offers, as $15 for a 4-hour DLC is kind of a ripoff in my opinion, and we also were hoping that it would answer some of the loose ends in the story of Dark Souls 3, but they created more questions than answers, sadly. But with all of its flaws, it is still an amazing DLC, and I had a lot of fun playing through it and seeing some throwbacks to the original Painted World. And I'm hoping for the second DLC they add more content, and just a quick tease for you guys, it is most likely that they will add 2 additional arenas for the Undead match in the second DLC, as in the code of the game there is mention of Grand Roof and Dragon Ruins next to the Kiln of Flame arena, but we'll leave these for a later video where I will talk about multiple stuff found in the code after the DLC was added. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope it changed your opinion about the DLC, and hit the like and subscribe buttons as your support means a lot to me. So I'll be seeing you on my next video. Bye bye.